Good day and welcome to Open Studio on Cape Town TV. Today we'll be discussing about depression and anxiety and stress during the festive season and how to cope with that. I'm Tabitha and we welcome Dylan as our guest from Cape Mental Health. Hello Dylan, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. So we'd like to discuss a bit about the history of the organization. How did Cape Mental Health come into existence? Where did it start? Could you tell us a bit more?
So Cape Mental Health is essentially one of the oldest organizations pertaining to mental health, especially on the African continent that we know of. We've been in existence for approximately 106 years, and we've come a long way, and it's always been based in Cape Town. So basically the history of it is we've always been advocating and fighting for mental health rights, and also catering to people who are living with mental disabilities as well throughout the years. And we've embarked on innovative practices and changing with the health sector as it is, and continue to fighting for the rights for people living with mental disability.
Absolutely, fantastic thing you guys are doing. Could you tell me a bit about your counseling services that you offer? I believe you offer from individual right through to group
Yes.
counseling services. What does that entail?
So we essentially offer like a range of services, as well as projects and programs that we have based in the various communities on the Cape Flats as well. So this would range from free counseling to psychological screenings, and those are just your individual cases where we have social workers stationed at our head office, where anyone is more than welcome to come through and make an appointment. Then we also delve into our various programs and projects that we have, like I mentioned, which specifically entails your intellectual disability as well as psychosocial disability. Well, just to give you a brief bit of background on that, intellectual disability, it's normally onset from birth, so we would consider Down syndrome, or let's say fetal alcohol syndrome in this case, as examples towards intellectual disability. And then we have psychosocial disability, which is a term that basically blankets how can I say, disorders that change people's moods. So this would then be classified as depression or anxiety or bipolar disorder. So we've got these projects then pertaining to that need within our communities as well. And the services is, like I said, it's for free for anyone, and everyone is more than welcome to come through and make an appointment to see some of our social workers. So like you said, we can either see someone on an individual basis, or we can have a group setting where if someone is living with an intellectual disability, we've got field social workers who are mandated in specific areas in suburbs. So then they would go out and kind of engage with the person living with that disability and make sure that they're on the right track, whether they are taking their medicine, whether they're going to the local medical facility to receive the necessary treatment that they do need to keep them on the right path. But they also offer a support for people, the families as well.
Yeah, very good. And tell me, the special education centers or care centers, what do those centers offer?
So the special education care centers, those are specifically curated around the need within the communities, whereas children living with severe disabilities that has affected their cognitive and motor functioning as well. So they more than likely confined to a wheelchair, and it's particularly demanding for parents to kind of cope and care for them in that sense. And in today's economic climate, I mean, both parents need to be working to actually break even in that sense, if I may say so. So the special education care centers is there to kind of fulfill the needs of our younger demographics in a sense, and it's basically a daycare where we kind of stimulate them, we kind of learn them arts and crafts, or we engage with them in certain sensory activities to stimulate them.
So do you have like a sort of like a roster or a special program that you sort of go through on a daily basis with them?
Yes. So this would then pertain to something similar to an educare center or creche, if I may say so.
Oh, I see.
So we'd have specific activities catered around just their development and learning them a few new skills in that sense, and engaging with them in that level.
And does that also include the adult daycare? Is that a part of it, or is that a separate?
Yes. So the adult daycare also forms part of it, which we also have sections branched off from the main tree. So these are called, this is called the Eagles program. And this is for your adults who are above 21 years old. So they are adults, but you know, they are severely disabled in that sense. So they are confined to wheelchairs, or some of them might be mobile, but they need the extra attention in that regard. So it simulates the Special Education Care Centers Day program, but it just adjusted more to their development and their needs, and engaging them for them to how can I say, further their functioning.
And how do these people actually get to you? Do you go and collect them and bring them back to the center?
Yes. So
do you provide that service?
Yeah. So in essence, if I can take you through the process, or like we would then create how can I say, a scenario in the sense where we have a family who has they have a family member that is severely disabled, and they can't necessarily cater to the needs of the person. It can be very stressful, we understand. So you would then just call our head office and set up an appointment, and this is where we would just do a initial screening of the user, or well, we call them service users. We would do an initial screening in this sense, and then we would kind of evaluate the situation, or what level their functioning is, and how they would be integrated into the program, or whether they are a good fit for the program in that sense. So then they would be placed over to the nearest facility in the immediate region, which would just make it that much more how can I say, convenient, because then we have transport available at these various centers, which then goes out to go and pick them up and then safely drop them off at home after the day is done.
Fantastic. And tell me, you've recently had or held the Kite Festival. I think it was in October.
Yes.
What is that about? Is it for everybody to participate? What did you do in that, and how was this year's festival?
So the Kite Festival serves as a sense of a grand finale to all the campaigning and the awareness raising that we've done throughout the course of the year. So we have 3 campaign months throughout the year. We've got March, July, as well as October, and we specifically center the Kite Festival around October as a means to kind of end of the year and all the work that we've done in this regard. And the Kite Festival was amazing. We've seen a lot of amazing kites being flown from all over the world, as we've had a lot of kiters come through. And it's just a fun-filled family day, and where we also kind of promote mental health awareness.
Thank you, Dylan. We're off to a quick ad break. Be back after these. Welcome back to Open Studio on Cape Town TV. We're with Dylan from Cape Mental Health. Welcome back. So we were discussing the Kite Festival and all that sort of thing. I'd like to also find out now about Garden Cottage for Women. What is that special project? What is that about?
So Garden Cottage is one of the 2 residential housing facilities that we do offer to people living with intellectual disability, in this sense, under the program. And Garden Cottage is specifically catered towards the females, and we've got about 8 members living in the house at the moment who suffer from severe intellectual disability. But they've also gone through the ranks of some of our programs, which I think we'll delve into later, in terms of they have a steady day program which they attend, and some of them are also able to find jobs in the open labor market. And that is just one of the success stories that we have, which is Garden Cottage, yes.
And Garden Cottage for Women, is that any age, or is there a starting and an ending age?
It's at any age, but because we are only limited towards 8 members, and that's we can only accommodate a certain number at a time.
Okay, right. Now I believe the festive season is around the corner, and for some it's a celebration, and for others some feel the holiday blues. What is the holiday blues, and what are the contributing factors towards feeling that way?
I think in a sense the holiday blues, it's because the festive season is all about togetherness and family, and it celebrates, you know, coming together after a long period. I mean, it's very common that you would find that you know, family members are scattered all over across the country, but then when you come together, it's harmonious in that sense. And I think what the existing culture of it is if you don't necessarily have someone or family to go to, or you, how can I say, perhaps secluded in that regard, where is you don't have active family members present in your present life, especially over the holiday period where everyone is more family centered. It does bring about holiday blues that I would regard as.
So would you say holiday blues is less severe than, say, depression?
I think so. I think it could be a far minute, how can I say, aspect in terms of when we compare to depression in that regard. It is a period where things kind of dip low, and there's a lot of contributing factors in the sense of perhaps you don't have, or you're not, how can I say, you're not financially secure, or like I said, family also plays a role. You kind of don't have that element where you are engaging with other people or other family members, and that also plays a role.
So perhaps the holiday blues is more of a sadness as opposed to a mental sort of
yes,
disorder or disability like depression.
Yes,
or
I would agree.
anxiety.
You know, if you take into depression into regard, it's not a sense of just sadness. It's kind of it's hard to equate to something that we could relatively understand in present day, but I think it is a form of it, not as severe.
Yeah, because I think it also stems from different traumatic things possibly that have also happened in your childhood, etc., etc. So I presume they are completely different.
Yes,
in that
no,
sense. Why is there such a misconception about depression and anxiety over the festive season? You know, you find a lot of people see it as a happy time and they're celebrating and having a wonderful time, but like for many, it's not really. People have this misconception about, yes, it's all about celebration, but there are certain people out there who are really battling, like you say, with financial aspect or whatever the case is, or perhaps have even lost a loved one. What do you think they could do to actually feel better, in a sense, during this festive season? What do you think, what could they do?
I think there's a lot in terms of, how can I say, that someone could do, especially over the festive period in this regard. It kind of becomes a bit more strenuous, especially when you're looking at someone suffering from depression, or whether it is anxiety or bipolar, especially over this period. But there are a number of support groups that you could engage with. So the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, SADAC, which also offers a helpline, hotline. And I think the most important thing is just to kind of engage, be open enough to reach out to someone and explain to someone exactly how you are feeling at the point. Maybe it's a close family member, or it's a friend, or a close colleague. It's just a matter of speaking up and actually, you know, saying that, you know, you're not okay, and it's okay to not be okay.
Yes. And do you think sort of eating well or exercising, those types of things actually play a role in feeling better?
I think most definitely. There are, you know, some chemicals in food or what you consume. It definitely plays a part, as well as getting enough sleep. Whether you are taking a break from, let's say, social media, or whether you are getting enough, like I said, enough rest, doing outdoor activities. It is proven that, you know, being in the outdoors kind of decreases your anxiety and also different kind of stresses, just to get your mind off of things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, because I think also there are a few people that battle with also loss of a family member over the festive season. They don't know how to deal with that.
particularly raw, especially if you've lost someone during the course of the year, and it's like I said, it's festive season is family orientated, and it's the first time you're spending it without that particular loved one. It's extremely important to how can I say, get in touch with your feelings and also speak about what the issues are instead of bottling it up, because I think that's where we start festering these emotions, and which would lead to something
Thank you,
greater.
Dylan. We're off to a quick ad break. Be back after these. Welcome back to Open Studio on Cape Town TV. We're chatting to Dylan from Cape Mental Health. Dylan, before the ad break, we were chatting about some tips on how to cope with depression and anxiety during the festive season. I just want to run through a couple of those again, if you don't mind, for us.
I think, yeah, we mentioned just eating right, getting enough sleep, as well as, just doing outdoor activities. Like I said, it does decrease some stresses and kind of get your mind off of things. And then there's, from societal pressures and stresses as well, like cutting off on social media and rather reading a book instead. Yeah, so those are the kinds of things I would recommend.
Great. And then people that are feeling isolated, and they probably do that to themselves when they're feeling down, they want to isolate themselves. What do you say they could perhaps do to prevent them from feeling isolated?
Especially with certain mental disorders, in the sense, and I'm specifically referring to depression and anxiety. Sometimes your mental illness kind of takes a hold, and kind of it does it at impulse, and not necessarily that you're choosing to isolate yourself, but it's just a consequence of what is happening at that present moment. That's why I feel like it's particularly important for people to kind of reach out to someone, whether it's a family member, whether it's a close friend, or if you're living in another city and you have at least one person you can talk to talk about your feelings, or someone who will be able to understand when you are going through a mental episode or when you are dipping into a depressive state, that they'll be able to kind of do the necessary, how can I say, take the necessary interventions to kind of be there and support you in the right ways. So I think that's the main issue, is just that people need to start talking more about what they're feeling.
And I think for some people it's quite difficult to reach out, because feeling afraid of being afraid in what they're feeling is difficult for somebody to just sort of stretch out an arm and ask somebody else to please help them.
Yes, no, I mean, for instance, if you need to, it's particularly stressful if you have no idea whether you should disclose you have, let's say, bipolar in the workplace, because it might affect how your employer sees you or views the work that you could do. And those are the kinds of issues and stigma that we also strongly advocate against, and that's why we're out in the streets and parading and just letting everyone know that this is a conversation we need to start talking about.
And tell me, Dylan, some organizations are closed over the festive season. Are there any that are open that people can contact? Do they have some facility? I don't know if it's after hours, emergency. Any other organizations that they could perhaps get hold of?
Primarily, SADC has a hotline that I know of, but I think it's also in the sense of where you are stationed. I think it would be a great idea just for people to kind of revert back to the internet and start researching these various organizations. There are so many organizations doing a lot of great work within the various sectors or across Cape Town in itself, and I think it varies depending on what it is particularly that you're struggling with at that point.
So besides counseling, what other creative ways can people sort of take on to help their depression or their stress, for that matter?
I think it's when we're talking about depression as well as anxiety, and where you are diagnosed with having a mental disorder in that sense, it is particularly fruitful to engage with your counselor or your psychiatrist in that sense, to kind of get a scope in terms of they'll be able to guide you and give you guidelines and also steer you in the right direction in that sense. But it's kind of different for people suffering from normal stresses who don't suffer from a mental illness or have socioeconomic issues, where they could, instead of going to a psychiatrist, perhaps they find art interesting and they can go to an art class, which I feel would probably relieve some of the stresses or just take their mind off of things. Whereas when someone's suffering from depression, it's a very unique situation and needs to be handled uniquely, but you don't necessarily are restricted to a psychiatrist. There's all these other, the 5 tips that I mentioned earlier, it also plays a role in someone who also suffers from bipolar or anxiety in that sense.
And what happens with people who do not have access to the internet? How do they get to these facilities, or where do they find these facilities in order to get help?
I think your local day hospital or local, how can I say, healthcare services, those are the ones you then can reach out to, because they would then know of an existing network of organizations and institutions that offer various mental health services specifically. If not, then you are more than welcome to contact us and just to find out, because we are in contact with various organizations, and whether it is autism or whether it's bipolar, organization that specifically deals in bipolar or depression in that regard, then those are the organizations we would put you in touch or refer you to.
Okay. Now, a lot of us complain about our bad habits, so the overeating and even the over-drinking and all those sorts of things that make us feel bad over the festive season. What is it, do you think, about the festive season that actually brings that all about, makes it resurface again? And how can we put something in place to perhaps not feel so bad?
I think it's obviously a bad habit, and it's been onset for the duration of the year. So it's bound to come out when you're feeling particularly stressed over the festive period, and especially when festive blues comes into play. And I think it's just, how can I say, understanding who you are and your body and how you react to certain things. I mean, it would be kind of fruitless if you don't necessarily realize that you overeat, or in that sense, or you don't believe someone when they tell you this. But there's unique ways, perhaps, and there's taking up hobbies as well. Getting your mind off of things, perhaps just practicing a bit of self-restraint in the smallest ways, and setting a few goals which would kind of build up that habit of you just refraining from something that you feel that whenever you do it, you don't feel good about yourself afterwards.
And Dylan, what are your contact details? Could you share with us, just in case the public has any more questions for you?
So people can visit our website to find out more about the organization as well as the services we offer, which is at www.capementalhealth.co.za, or they can visit or even call our head office, which is 021 447 9040. And if you want to keep up to date with what we're doing and all the fun activities that we're having, people are more than welcome to just search Cape Mental Health on various social media, and they'll be able to find us.
And Facebook page?
Facebook page, that includes Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, everything.
All the social media?
Yes.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you.
We have unfortunately come to the end of this show. Thank you, Dylan, for being here. Thank you, viewers, for watching. From me, Tabitha. Till next time on Open Studio on Cape Town TV, it's goodbye.